Hello and welcome back. So for this particular social issue that we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about the access to reproductive care, access to health care, access to thorough and important investigations in regards to sexual assault, really rape and the violation of the right to body integrity. So when we talk about bodily integrity, we not only talk about sexual assault, but we also talk about access to health care. We talk about access to different types of modes that give us bodily integrity in regards to identifying who we are, as well as a justice system that supports us, right? So it is the right to security and not to suffer from cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment. So if we think back to our human rights, we all have a right to security, but not everyone is afforded this right. So first, let's look at the continuum of violence. So within the continuum of violence, we see that oppression is centered, right? And then outside of this oppression, we see that there are manifestations of this oppression through the systems of the matrix of domination, right? So we have ableism, racism, sexism, classism, anti-Semitism. These are not a list of the complete isms, but it is a general overview of how these systems work together. So through these systems, oppression manifests. And then we can see how within these agents or within these the matrix of domination, we see that there is misogynistic practices. We see that there's gender violence normalization, sexualized media depiction, rigid gender roles, sexist jokes, voyeurism, sexual harassment, sexual exploitation, right? So when we see that gender violence is normalized, this is when we talk about rape culture and how rape culture is normalized within our society. You can look at media, you can look at education, you can look at government, right? So gender violence is completely normalized in that it is acceptable and almost promoted, right? And so we can see this within the judicial system by not prosecuting anyone, right? And if they are prosecuted and convicted, which is an incredibly low rate, they get very, very minimal time or sentencing. We also see that within educational spaces, universities are very reluctant to press any charges or to look into gender violence, as well as the victim of gender violence is often targeted and will be have consequences, negative consequences for actions that are out of their control. We have sexualized media depiction. We all can understand that in regards to look at any media source, right? Children's cartoons, the female identified bodies are often wearing nothing. Gaming, right? Female identified bodies are hypersexualized, also wearing nothing. We can see that even within the political forum, the female identified bodies are sexualized, either the desexualization of Senator Clinton or the hypersexualization of Sarah Palin. We see that there are rigid gender roles that you have to ascribe to a identified gender performance. Sexist jokes are everywhere. Voyeurism, or the act of watching someone who is not consenting to that. And then we see sexual harassment, sexual exploitation, and then it starts moving into flashing, rape, incest, statutory rape, child rape, date rape, marital rape, partner rape, and then rape and murder. So we can see how all of these things are connected to each other, and there is a progression. So next we're going to talk about femicide. So femicide is the ultimate form of violence against women and girls. It exists in every country and takes many forms. It is the extreme endpoint of a continuum of violence against women. Refer back to the last PowerPoint page. Femicide occurs because the continuum of violence against women continues to be accepted, tolerated, and justified. Like all violence against women, the many causes of femicide are rooted in gender inequality, gender expectations, and systemic gender-based discrimination. So again, if you look at this tree, on the roots are sexism, gender inequality, power imbalances, institutionalized discrimination, misogyny, and then it moves up kind of like through that continuum of violence, but we see how it branches off, right? So I'm going to have you watch one of these two videos in regards to femicide, and I'm going to have you put up the discussion and start talking with each other in regards to this. The femicide is killing of women in general, or understanding femicide in the disappeared women of Juarez, Mexico. So next we're going to look at domestic violence and intimate partner violence. Again, if anything is triggering, Please feel free to communicate with me or take your time through these processes. We have counseling services here at the college available. Please let me know if there's anything I can do to assist you. We see that lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and intersex bodies experience domestic violence at a similar rate to non-LGBTQIP plus women. Roughly 1 in 3 people will experience domestic violence in their lifetime, both cisgender heteronormative bodies and queer bodies. We see also that 1 in 4 women will experience domestic violence. It's roughly between 1 in 3 and 1 in 4 women, depending on the statistics that you look at, but it is really difficult to gain this kind of material because so many people don't report domestic violence at all. So I'm going to have you watch The Power of Touch, and then we're going to talk about crimes of honor. So if we see in the lower right-hand side, despite the fact that my face is in it, we see that these are victims of acid attacks, and which is unfortunate, and acid attacks are incredibly common in our existence in our world, and less common but still happen in the United States. And that is often in regards to someone not accepting a marriage proposal, someone not accepting a date, someone breaking up with someone. It is the ultimate, like one of the, not the ultimate, but one of the stronger ways to get at women, because women are valued for their aesthetics, and when you ruin their aesthetics, you ruin that woman. So let's look at street harassment. So we're going to look at how catcall videos and male actor dresses as women and how they experience sexual harassment. Our bodies are not public property, and we shouldn't be policed. If women don't want to smile, we shouldn't have to smile. It is not a compliment to tell someone that they're more beautiful when they smile, because again, it is not, our bodies are not your property, and we're not to be policed. We can do whatever we would like with them, as they are our bodies. We have 6 things that men can do to stop street harassment. Know what it is, be an ally, lead by example, be a role model, challenge language and behavior, and act accordingly. We also see that California has become the first state to ban gay and trans panic defenses. And let me just pause this real fast. Welcome back. Move my face so you can actually read this, right? So gay and trans panic is a defense that you can use if you happen to commit a violent act against someone who is gay or trans. So basically, it is the panic defense, which allows defendants of murder to argue a lesser sentence because they were so shocked to learn the victim was gay or trans. It is no longer can sexual orientation or gender identity be used to justify violent crimes in court in California. Unfortunately, not every state is totally up with it as California, but we are moving forward, and we can see really how legitimately a lot of states in our government and agents of socialization continue to reinforce this gender-based violence, in that it is totally okay for you to murder someone else simply because you were so flustered or shocked that they were gay or trans. And it's like, all right, we'll give you a much less sentence, or a lowered sentence, because we understand that it's shocking and these people are abnormal. Okay, so the geography of violence or fear. So we are going to look to how this connects to hegemonic masculinity. Hegemonic masculinity is, again, this 300, right? So it is a dominant way of understanding what it is to be masculine. We can see this in sports, right? So you have to be aggressive, you take what you want, you don't let people say no to you, you are, can be hyper-violent. I'm going to have you watch Tough Guys and respond to this. And it's also going to be a part of our conversation in regards to what it means to be a male and hegemonic masculinity. How does this create a seductive state of oppression for female-identified bodies? And how does this get instilled at an early age, right? So this idea that we normalize gender violence, and that we also don't have a language to talk about it, and if we do, it is very uncomfortable, and we often blame the victim. So profound effects on many women's use of space as a product of their fear. Many women also not only perceive, but also experience their environment differently to men. So I want you to start thinking about, how has this changed, right? How has this been a part of our construction, right? So when I was younger, I was often taught to look under my car, look in the back seat, never walk alone at night, always park in areas that are well lit. I was always taught to protect myself from sexual assault, despite the fact that I am a sexual assault survivor multiple times over. All of this training didn't stop other people from making the decisions that they were going to make, right? So we can see how even in certain areas, I understand that I, as a female identified body, there's a certain level of danger wherever I go, and that I need to check the exits, I need to check who's in here, I need to look at what the probability is of someone moving me to a space I don't want to occupy. So we need to look at how male identified bodies and female identified bodies are very different. You can see this in one of the Master of Nuns, N-O-N-E, Master of None, by Aziz Ansari. It's a show on Netflix. In one episode, they look into how men and women experience space differently. So then we have the agents of socialization, right? So we have socialization through education, family, media, language, religion, government, the legal system, right? We talked all about those. So I want you to think about, I want you to choose one of these, and I want you to, this is just a practice for yourself, think about how these agents of socialization condition us to understand sexism and understand gender-based violence. Okay, so again, gender polarization, right, refers to the way that diverse aspects of human experience are culturally linked to sex difference. We can see that there are stereotypes in regards to the language that we use. We can see that on the lower right-hand corner, it is an image of Legos, even though Legos totally came out with this statement when they first were created that it is a gender-neutral toy and that everyone loves to build stuff. Oh, wait. But now they're like, yeah, sure. We're going to build Legos for young females. We're going to have them work at fast food restaurants, be a beautician, work in fashion, or at least have fashionable accessories, make smoothies, right? All these things that humans, yeah, can be interested in, but it creates, again, and reinforces this rhetoric that that's what a woman is supposed to be interested in do. In the upper left-hand corner, you can see this advertisement by Mr. Clean. This Mother's Day, get back to the job that really matters, which is socializing your younger daughter to clean and you cleaning. I don't know about you, but if that was me, I'd be pretty upset. Okay, so then this is a median weekly of $1,800 earnings from women and men, right? So we see that there are occupations where people earn much more. Women are in green, men are in yellow. Men make much more than women in general, right? And we're going to look more at this wage gap. We also see that historically, people in power in our government have all generally been white males. We see that the national legislative seats held by women and their wage gap, right? So earning ratio, white men versus women, white, black, and Hispanic, right? So 74, 64, 54. We have Sweden, Cuba, right? We have on the left-hand side, we have this chart that looks at the national legislative seats held by women. So the United States is fairly low, right? Sweden, Cuba, Germany, Australia, Singapore, Mexico, Pakistan, China, the United Kingdom, and France all have more women in their government than we do. All right, so that's the end of this particular lecture. This is just a framework to get you started on some of the discussion elements that we're going to use this week. If you have any questions, please use the peer help forum. If you have any other questions that you can't have solved by the peer help forum, email me and I will help to clarify it. If you got a question, someone else probably does too. All right, I'll see you next time. Have a great week.